biggest problem right now with like tier 2, tier 3, and this even is going from my own team, is just like everyone is so fucking inconsistent so far.
Right. Here I am with Aimke of Space Station Academy. Aimke, how you doing?
Doing great, man. Doing great.
So, this is the first interview that I get to do where we actually get to talk a little bit about the games instead of just prep, which makes this a little bit interesting. But let's just start with, how do you think you've done so far? You've had 2 matches, 1 win, 1 loss. Obviously losing to Karn and Co, no shame there, but you beat the Gonder Takers. I don't even know how I'm supposed to pronounce their name. So, you're in a pretty good spot for how the Swiss stage has played out so far. Like, how do you think the first 2 matches have gone?
I think Nighthaven was a little disappointing on the score side because we lost 7-2-7. But like some of the rounds could have gone either way. We definitely, I think our early game for most of the rounds were good, but we just really couldn't close out rounds against Karnico. The Gunder Takers, if that's, let's go by the Gunder Takers.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing off the mouth. Fuck, what was I gonna say? Oh, basically that game was like weird. So we went 3-3 on the defensive half, I think, and then we lost one attack, and then we won the rest of the rounds.
Yeah.
There was like so many rehosts in the games because basically the observer messed up the setting where it's rounds played versus rounds won. He messed that up 4 times in a row, so that was fun.
All right. Did that affect the mental at all, or like was that just kind of like a? Because I know some teams can.
It affected the mental in a good way because I was just like so tired at that point because I had to like finish at SA2 that I kind of popped off the second half because I was tired of that shit.
No, that's fair.
Tired of that shit. But yeah, so I mean, team wise, I think definitely could have had a better showing against Karn and Co. Yeah. And then versus Undertakers, I think our attacks were really well. I think we played pretty well as a team, and yeah, I'm happy with my individual performance as well.
Yeah, and off the top of your head, do you know who your next opponent is? Because on Wikipedia, it's not showing.
It is Osiris.
Osiris. What are your expectations with them? Because they already made a roster change between Playday 1 and Playday 2 with, I want to say it was Veleno leaving for Sentier?
No, it was Veleno for Ambi.
For Ambi, got it.
Yeah.
Like, what are your expectations going into that match? Because obviously that, like, off rip, that's an instant, like, firepower upgrade in your mind. Ambi's been running T3 for years now.
I think it's kind of just like a 2-player team in my mind. I look at that team, it's like Sneeze, Floofs, Sentier, Ambi, and oh my god, I feel bad for Abinai.
Yeah.
I mean, I just see that team and I think, oh, it's I'm playing against Ambi and Sentier or Devin. I don't. It's not that I don't respect other people. It's just like in my mind, that's who I'm playing against when going into that game. And like, they don't really have Ambi on like. They have Ambi on like a flex role too, so it's not even like he's like primary entering against us.
Okay.
I looked at some scoreboards and obviously just watched a few pods. Feeling confident going into the match. Obviously can't be too confident, but overall, like, pretty happy matchup of the possibilities we could have gotten.
Yeah, and I do want to get him a wheeze a little bit of like your team structure because this is, I want to say, the first or like one of the first in forever interviews I've gotten to have with a player from a Nightmare Knicks team. So, like playing with Knicks and like playing with this new squad because it's Knicks, Rai Jetcon, you, and Godville. Like, what is it like playing on this team? Because this seems a lot different than like a 1 HP type deal, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot different for me, and then I would assume for everyone else. Unfortunately, we're not Rise a sub for now because he had like some family issues. So we have a Veleno playing with us, which is kind of funny since we're playing Osiris. But yeah, definitely new for me because I've never played with any of these guys before. With all my previous teams, I played with someone before on the roster, whether that was like with Mystic playing with Kirk and Scoo before, whether that was 1HU with like Big Eye and Kirk, or Carnival where it was Skunky. So it's kind of new for me, just getting used to it. I'm also on, I want to say I'm on a new kind of play style on the attack. I'm not really playing as much, so that's been a little bit of adjustment for me. But overall, like Nyx is definitely like a good leader. He's definitely got good ideas. He's definitely, I would say, a good IGL. Obviously, there's still some stuff like that everyone can work on as a team, and I think this is one of the teams where we've had the most conversations about like each other's problems and like what we're doing to fix on them, which is definitely healthy. Usually when T3, T2, you don't really discuss that as much as I think we've done. So I think just accountability and everything, and yeah, it's been going pretty good so far.
Yeah, and
I would
I
say.
do want to ask, do you have any support staff, any coaches, analysts, any of that stuff, or is it just, the players and you're all kind of managing it as a team?
So we have a coach. We have Slate's ex-coach David.
All right.
He's pretty good at just like he's kind of similar, obviously, in my opinion. No offense to David, he's not gonna beat Coach K out for me. I love Cohen too much. I can't ever hate on my boy. But he's definitely a good coach. I would say definitely not. I'm definitely happy with all that he's said so far.
Yeah.
And then we've done. We're doing some talking with call out and stuff just for in terms of team stuff. So that would be like the extent of
Okay.
the staff.
Yeah, and so what is it like playing for Space Station? Even in an academy like capacity, representing one of, I think at this point, one of the biggest orgs in NA, if not the world, even like as an academy team, that's got to be a pretty big deal for you, right?
Maybe I don't know. It really I don't really think about it that way. I just think of it. I'm just playing on a team.
Yeah, that's fair.
Definitely a cool opportunity and stuff, but I don't see. I obviously I see the significance of it, but I don't know. It hasn't really hit me. It's kind of funny because obviously Jinxie blew up and he's on
Yeah.
SSG, so like I've had some conversations with people who are saying like, oh, I'm on this like SSG A team or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, I know that organization from Jinxie and stuff. And I'm like, oh okay, so that's a little, I guess, eye opening for me. But
Yeah.
besides that, I don't know. It hasn't really either hit me or I just don't really process it in that way that
Yeah,
I'm
that's
playing
fair.
for like SSG or whatever or under the banner. Obviously, I respect it and all, but
Yeah.
it hasn't hit me like, oh shit, this is like a big thing or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, and so I wanna pick your brain a little bit about the state of XGS because outside of Karn being like king of T2 right now, finally won a chip, and now he's here to run everyone's pockets until he gets usurped. The rest of T2 is kind of all up in the air. We're dealing with a completely new aerial arise. UN All Stars is there. Wildcards, same old. But is that enough to be like top of the cream of the crop? What do you think are the top three, like tier two, tier three teams in the space right now in XGS?
Obviously Karn. I think that's an easy answer. Um, the biggest problem right now with like tier two, tier three, and this even is going from my own team, is just like everyone is so fucking inconsistent so far. Like Ariel, for example, won TPL, but now they're O2 and Xenon,
Yeah.
which is and like I don't know, it's weird. I would definitely still put Ariel and E1 probably as the next two teams. I think Wildcard's good. I think they're definitely playing better. Obviously, they beat Karn the other day. So
Yeah.
if they keep up that consistency, I definitely would put them up in there. They would be like my fourth spot here. But yeah, I mean, the problem is just everyone's consistent. Like there are good rosters. Like that Outlast roster is a good roster. Obviously, that Area Rise roster is a good roster.
Yeah.
But it's just like there's just inconsistencies happening. Like yeah, I don't know. And like E1 All Stars lost to what's their name? What was it? The
The
opposition.
yeah.
Opposition. And I'm just like I like that's just obviously they're playing with Cohen instead of Skunky, but even in my mind that's just a game they should never lose. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's just mostly inconsistency and like the teams that can be the most consistent will stay on top, and I think that's why Carnico is the best team, even though they lost the other day, because they're still playing consistently well. No barking. But yeah, I would say Karn, Ariel, E1,
All
and
right.
then wild card as the honorary fourth spot.
And where would you put yourself? You know, are we talking like top 6, like top 8? Where are you?
I would say probably top 6. I would say it's between us and Elevate for that spot
Okay.
in my mind. Obviously, I hope I'm not gonna be blindly egotistical and say no, we're the second best or whatever. Obviously there's issues on the team that we're working through, and that I think will definitely improve in the coming days. But I just can't, in good faith, put me like any higher
Okay, yeah.
than top 6.
And is there anyone that you really want to beat in this tournament? Should the brackets bless it? You know, I remember at least for a little bit of time you were on Elevate Academy. I don't know like for how long or officially or unofficially. And you know you've got some teammates around. You know, Skunky's on E1 All Stars. Is there anyone that you really want to beat in this tournament? Like, if the opportunity arises, any rivalries with teams or players?
I don't think there's any like super big rivalries. Obviously, it would be always fun to play ex teammates because you know there's always that like banter in there.
Yeah.
I guess it would be E1 and Elevate would be the two teams that would be fun to play. Stop.
Yeah.
Gotta like hammer her with intention so she doesn't go crazy. But yeah, I guess those would be the two teams that would be fun to play. I played Elevate ACAD in SI quals with Joe and them. And lost, so it would be fun to get like a rematch against them or whatever.
Okay. And final thing here, is there anyone that you want to shout out right now? Any people or teams or whatever to shout out, or you know, push merch or whatever?
I guess just shout out my team because you know obviously I want to be here if it weren't for them, that same old stuff. And then just like shout out everyone at Xenon. Obviously there's some issues with Xenon, but they're all trying their best, and I know that overall it will be a good season. So just shout out to them.